To quote Benjamin Franklin, but in this world, nothing can be said to be certain except death and taxes. And the inevitability of both is such that we usually try to plan for, but occasionally we do get caught off guard. And in the one case, especially the end of our lives, whether people plan for them or not, they should know. You should know that you do have options to that, especially in this case with such an expense that can either be unexpected or even if you're planning for it. So to have alternatives and options is great. Here with me to talk about this is funeral director from Peaceful Reflections, Stephen Skiles. Good morning, Stephen.
Good morning.
And we were talking about this off the air in whether or not you're preparing for this this event that happens. Part of life is actually the end of our life or a loved one's, or whether or not it happens suddenly, that the expense on a regular type of funeral situation, as we call a body burial, is exorbitant, in some cases really out of the reach of a lot of people. Is that right?
That is correct. A typical funeral can range anywhere from $6,000 and up.
That's very true, but even cremations can be pretty expensive too, because there are some people who don't want the big elaborate thing. They just want to be remembered for who they were and not necessarily for how they are once they have passed on. But in this case, you have at Peaceful Reflections, located in Canyon Country, by the way, an incredibly reasonable cremation package, right?
That is correct. For a basic cremation, which is all-inclusive as far as for the cremation is concerned, we only charge $895. And that includes everything from picking up your loved one and bringing them into our care to the actual cremation itself, and then releasing your loved one back to you so that they can go home once it's completed.
And this is sometimes a subject that is a little bit, some people don't necessarily want to talk about it because of the fact that it reminds them of their own, mortality. But in this case, something like that, if anybody has ever been through this before and knows especially how you can get, I hate to say it, nickeled and dimed in some cases by the industry. Now, you were telling me also out the air, you have 22 years of experience in this industry, right?
Just over 22 years.
Just over 22 years, but you have worked in the industry for a corporation and have actually decided to start your own business for Peaceful Reflections, I should say, cremation care, as an alternative to those really exorbitant prices that people have, right?
Exactly. After 17 years of working in the corporate structure for the funeral industry, I realized that there was a more affordable way and a better way to help families and consumers during this hard time of their life. This isn't a time when they should be taken advantage of. This is a time when they need our understanding and help.
And the other thing we were talking about too was how this kind of gives people an option as to how they want to remember their loved one. And in not such a structured environment, you don't have a chapel, which is one of the reasons the overhead is lower, but it gives people the opportunity, if they want to have a celebration of life somewhere else. I know that recently with my father-in-law's passing, he passed away in Arizona, but he just wanted to be cremated. Don't give me a funeral, don't give me anything fancy, just get together at some point and remember me. And I think that with that kind of option, and those are kind of becoming more, I don't know if you'd say in fashion, if that's a term
Yes.
you would use, but to give people options to that kind of really just kind of static formula of let's all get together in one place and get the family out all at once. And funerals can be such a rush to get everybody out, and in this case it gives people the opportunity to plan and really have something that can really be a good celebration of our loved ones' lives, right?
Exactly. One of the biggest stresses in dealing with the passing of a loved one is how hectic it can be to get all the plans put together, get all the family together so that they can attend a service. And it's pretty much of a structured type service where they're all, I don't want to say cookie cutter, but they're all pretty much the same. With cremation, you have the opportunity to celebrate the individual's life, and you could do it a week later, 2 weeks later. I've had families do it 6 months later, where everybody can get together, a family reunion, same time, or just get together, and they get together in a place that's memorable for the individual as well as the families, because funeral services or memorial services are for the living. And it helps them to get together and talk and reflect, and it's in a stress-free not technically stress-free, but it's a lot less stress because they're not rushed. They've had time to put it together. They've had time to plan it. They've had time to figure out what would be memorable and meaningful for everybody involved. So it takes a lot of that stress away from the funeral service.
And I found in doing it like that from my own personal experience, it really actually helps on that essence of closure, which is really so important when we lose someone so close to us in that setting. And the fact, though, that you're local, you're right down the street of Oak Avenue, which is just west of Ruther, and you've got, you have everything, you actually have urns and everything there, and so is it kind of a showroom setting, or how does that work?
It is a show. There is a showroom setting there. We have everything from jewelry that contain cremated remains to high-end urns, if that was what somebody desires. We also have the very basic urns, so we have a very large selection of merchandise, so to speak, it's an afterlife condo for the individual.
Exactly. Now, and also, this isn't just for people who have had this happen all of a sudden. People can go in and actually plan this out and do just like they would anywhere else, right? They want to go in, okay, I want to make my arrangements now with you, and when the time comes, here we go, and just go ahead and set it up, correct?
Exactly. We do have various options available for families that wish to pre-arrange it, and it guarantees the service at any time. For example, if they pay the $895, say today, and they don't pass away for 20, 30 years, the service that they paid for, which is the cremation and release of the remains to the family so that their loved one can go home, is guaranteed.
Well, that's terrific. And you are located on Oak Avenue in Santa Clarita. Phone number 251-0500. And you also have a website that has a lot of your information on there, peacefulreflections.net. Stephen Skiles, Funeral Director for Peaceful Reflections, thank you so much for coming out and giving this information. I think it's really important for people to understand.
It's been my pleasure, and thank you for having me.